So, finally going to see the bottom of this pond. It's been quite a while, 15 months, and we've been selling fish. You can see the level's quite low. We've got these gentlemen who are going to be reconditioning the pond. Remember, we've got our trial coming, so we need to make sure the depth of the water is fine. It's not deep enough. So they've just, I think they're waiting for me, which is kind of them, because we dug this trench out because, of course, the level of the water has to be below the point at which it's coming out. So they've dug this trench here. There's a couple of sacks. We're going to open it up, see what we get. By my calculations, we've got about the most, well, so I know how many fish were put in, but don't know exactly how many have died. And if I presume no fish have died, well, apart from the ones that we've counted, we could have about 1,500 fish left in here, which is a lot, but there's no way we'll have that, because that's from fingling. So I reckon maybe we'll have a couple of hundred, if that. So we'll have a see when we open it up, see what we get. So yeah, let's start. So we're just getting ready. We're putting this older net just across the entrance to make sure none of the fish come down here. And then we'll drain and then seine as well. We've got an order from one of the children's centres for 100 fish, so that they're for tomorrow. But we'll put those in the happers over there. Let's keep them ready. So just dug out the first bit of mud. Here we go. Quite the flow. Okay. So you can see the depths up to knees, which is what it's like. Well, this is the deep part of the pond as well, because it's where the pipes are, and they need to be lower. But we don't want to use that pipe because we have to net it. You can't get the water out as quickly. So this is the best way. Plus, which like I said, I think the trench stopped about here, which is fine in normal times when you're just releasing a bit of water. But when you want to empty the pond, you just want to make sure that the water level is really low so that we don't have a problem. Plus, which when we open up, when we start digging down, the level, of course, will decrease, and so it has to be below. So yeah, pretty good. So, seen fish started to jump, which is great. So there's definitely fish there. I mean, they'll be attracted to the flow of water. They tend to swim against the current, sort of almost by default, but they'll be like, what's going on over here? But we should see this corner here, I think, would be the first one so we can start seeing the bottom. You can see all the bubbles with the water moving. So yeah, not bad. I love this new slab that we've got for a long time. We keep trying to measure fish, but on the wonky ground. So you know, see a stable surface, and finally, after how long, we finally managed to get ourselves a big, quite attractive looking bit of wood. So yeah, right, I'm off to try and see if I can see the pups, because I'm not sure where they are. And yeah, sort of become quite a big fan. Oh, there they are. Dash! Archie! Where are you? Hello. So yeah, anyway, jobs for today, just drain that pond, see how much work we've got to actually level it. The issue we've got is the rainy season, and it chucks it down and makes there's Archie. Hi Archie. Makes it really tricky to actually work, because this is all done by hand, remember, There's a couple of reasons for that. Sometimes people think, why are you doing it by hand? Number one, I think, is just it gives people a job. You know, we're not paying a huge amount, but locally people are just desperate for this type of work, and so that's number one. Number two, it's actually more expensive if we used a digger. Because labour is cheap, the machines are so overpriced, they have to be imported in. Then you've got the diesel and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's actually, funnily enough, better to do it by hand, although it takes longer. I did actually look to see, because if we had one of those little diggers, you know the ones I mean, one man, tiny little things, we could little excavators, we could probably use that long term. And I wondered, oh, you know, maybe that's, I know the jobs thing, but you've got to have, technology is also beneficial, right? Because then you've got someone to operate the thing. And anyway, but I decided that we can't even get them in the country, so it's not even an option. So we basically we have to do it by hand. But that's the challenge for today, it's just draining that pond, seeing what we've got in terms of fish and how much work we've got to do. So yeah, that's the main thing. I forgot why I came to the car, but it's to get this happer. This is the one that came, and I think you probably saw me hanging it up, or you might have seen it. We've got 28 of these on order. We only need 24, but you know, 4 spare, and it means that we can basically wash them, because part of the issue is that with happers is that you get a load of sediment, algal growth, all sorts of things growing on the mesh, and then that stops the water exchange, so you don't get fresh water coming in and flowing through, which of course has an impact on oxygen. But we've got one sample net, and I thought the others I think they're ready, they're just coming in the next couple of days. We are, well, Archie, oh yeah, here. My feet, not a good day to wear, not to forget your wellies. But yeah, we will use this, I think, for the compassion project. So I don't know if you can get over here, can you? Let me help you. Don't fall in there. So we'll use this happer for the fish that we are going to be selling tomorrow, and it's a bigger one than these are quite good happers actually, because the mesh size is big, and the bigger it is, then it's better for the fish, because more water coming through, less chance of getting fogged up, but it's also quite shallow, so I'm trying to put a happer in that further pond, because it's a bit deeper, and we'll put our fish for compassion centre in there. And this is a 3x3 metre happer, so it's a bit bigger. So yeah, let's go and see how far we've got. Actually, this corner that's going on first. What do I know about my own ponds, eh? You can see here, all these little circles are actually the nests for the fish. There's no stopping them making nests. And I've seen a few jump out. So we'll have to check them as well. But water's going down quite quickly, just making sure that we have a clear path for the water to go. So the thing currently at the moment, we need to, like I said, I think it's about ½ a metre to drop this pond by. So this mud here basically has to come out, and we're going to stick it on the sides here. But of course, as you do that, you gain some sides in height. So for every 10 centimetres we remove of mud, you maybe get 5, maybe 10 centimetres, I don't know exactly right, of the bank. So then the only thing stopping the height difference is you can fill it up higher, but of course the inlet is the slight issue, because that's a bit lower. So we are talking about maybe digging up the pipes that come here, so we can raise the level of water above what it currently is, and then that reduces the amount of work that needs to be done. Because this is also a pond that we need to drain in the next probably 2 weeks, I'd say. But the challenge we've got is the height of the water. To do that bit, I'm talking about raising the banks, which we will have to do anyway, because we need somewhere to put the mud. But then if we raise the banks, we can increase the height of the water, but that's limited by the water that's coming in. And Dawson's Creek over here, where we have the bank, is a slight issue, because what's that height? So of course there's that height difference there, right? So, but that's where the top of the water can sit here, but actually when you'll see it's actually sort of, it's a channel that dips down, and I don't know exactly where. There we go, here. So it's quite high at the moment because it's the rainy season, but we would have to raise this slightly maybe in order to do what we need to do. I don't think there's much leeway in terms of the height, but we'll have a look at it. I think certainly for the Isaac pond we can do that because it's lower. The ground, you know, we're sloping down as we walk slightly. Yeah, it's just a thought. Try and figure this out today. Just come in to check these nests for fish. You can see how much we've got to go. So you think that is the surface of the pond, and you press stand on it, and you go down. What's that, like 20 centimeters or so? And then it's much harder underneath. So basically, this has all been deposited because it had such awful erosion. Because this wasn't grassed when we first did it, and you can still see there's a bit of dirt. So when it rains, all the mud, it's just silt just pours in. So classic example of erosion. So we can put it out just looking for fish right now. But there's a fair bit of work to do. We might even go below this. I think if we're at 20 centimeters of mud, 30 centimeters, we'll probably go below that to the sort of bottom of the pond. Dig that up because we don't want a huge amount of, well, we need quite a bit of depth. So yeah, but it's almost feels nice apart from the smell. It's really clear mud. So we're really coming down to it now. This was pretty shallow and there's not much silt at the bottom, so the fish are just running away from me. But it's also just slightly, it's too low for them because they can't even get their whole bodies under, especially some of the bigger ones. Oh, just stood on a fish. But yeah, actually, I didn't realise that bit was, this is the shallow part, basically, you can see. And then that part's obviously deeper because the water's still standing there. So this is the, they're starting to really catch fish now. So we don't know how many we've got. Do I hope? Well, in some ways it's like, what do I hope? Do I want a lot of fish? Because that means that we've got a problem to sell them. Or do I want less? Because then our FCR rate's better. I don't know. But it's a balancing act. And the stress we have is just making sure fish don't die and then we manage to sell them. I'm just removing the pipes right now. There's one right at my feet. We're about to start measuring these fish. We've seined some of them out from here. The board. Then we'll put them in these happers behind me. So I'm not confident that we've got that many big fish. We need like 100 of the at least 120 and above, really. And I don't think we're going to get that. So, but if we need to, we'll come here. I mean, we need to get rid of these anyway, so it wouldn't be the end of the world if that happened. There you have it, an empty pond. Just picking up the last of the fish. Got fish everywhere, fish in there, fish in those buckets, fish in the happers. It's a bit of a scramble because you don't want them to perish. You can see these ones are gasping a bit, so we need to get these shifted into one of the ponds, but we're just putting this last tapper in and then we can start shifting them. But the pond's looking alright, just picking up the fish, the excess fish. They sort of burrow in the mud, pick them up, put them in these buckets and then weigh them, sort them out. So we're just testing the machine. Oh, we're just testing the machine. That wasn't a good test. This is some elephant grass, which we wouldn't be using in the trial, and it would be the hardest thing that we'd be chopping up. You can see we've got the motor connected up. We'll have proper wires when it gets to our place. And yeah, it just goes through here, chucked out the other end. And then there's a bit inside that you can change the size of the stuff, so it either comes out the bottom there or the top, depending on the size. So Very straightforward.